Hello everyone, it's Dr. Stuart Allen Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansion News vlog or podcast for the very first week of December 2020. And I have to say that this is probably one of the most important broadcasts that we have ever done. And you will find out why as I get through my information. And I have a lot of papers spread out here because some things came in at the very last moment before we were about to film. And so I will try to put things in as logical an order as I possibly can. And so I will just start with my first story. And that is General McInerney stated that sources have told him, and you've heard this on the internet for the last few days, that U.S. Army Special Forces and possibly a Delta Force raided a CIA-run server farm in Frankfurt, Germany. Now, quite frankly, for Frankfurt, and of course the headquarters of that were in Barcelona, and that is where the servers for Dominion voting tabulations were calculated. Now, again, I think we reported on this a week or so ago. You know, why would American voting tabulation be done in a foreign country by foreign created software? Now, the mere fact that a Delta Force attacked a CIA location in another country would indicate that we are in the midst of a civil war. If different agencies within the same country are attacking each other, and in fact, it's been reported that 5 soldiers were killed in the firefight, as well as 1 CIA paramilitary personnel, and then were allegedly flown to Afghanistan for security reasons. And subsequent review of the secured servers yielded proof that China, Iran, and unfortunately Russia were involved in an attempted coup against President Donald Trump. And it will be shown that he had an overwhelming victory in the election. Over 74 million people voted for him. And it may turn out that ultimately, when all the fraud is exposed and the illegal ballots have been eliminated, he may have won all 50 states. According to McInerney, these people have committed treason, and he pleaded with President Trump to not leave office until the treason is uncovered. Otherwise, America will be fatally wounded, which I think it already is in a way, and ripe for takeover by enemies, which I think is in process. McInerney also stated that he believes President Trump knew this deal was coming, and I'll have more information on that in a moment. Hence his executive order, which was issued for sanctions for interference in our elections by foreign powers. So unbeknownst to most people, in 2018, President Trump signed an executive order related to foreign interference in elections, and it has something to do with the media as well, which I'm going to get to in a moment. Now, there are people out there who said the servers could have been hacked by, let's say, the NSA from a distance, and that there was no reason for an attack on this location to get the servers. However, the servers could not be hacked by NSA or military intelligence, as some believe, because they had CIA heavy security and other securities which I cannot even talk about, which prevented hacking. So they had to physically go and remove it, and a physical confiscation was necessary. Now, Sidney Powell's lawsuit in Georgia reveals that Iran and China appear to have tampered with the U.S. elections in order to help fight. I mean, obviously. Powell's assistant attorney Abigail Fry said Iranian and Chinese operatives had access to Dominion voting systems in several key states. The suit found Iran and China were monitoring and manipulating U.S. elections to get their desired outcome this year, their puppet that they've paid for. The attorney cited the data provided by the 305 U.S. Military Intelligence Battalion. And I don't know if these were the ones who attacked the CIA outpost in Frankfurt. Powell's lawsuit is investigating the connections between Iran and Biden, a relationship that potentially grew during his time as vice president. Now, former Iranian official and pro-Tehran lobbyist hosted at the Obama White House dozens of times. That means Obama allowed Iranians who had an idea to dismantle the United States were hosted by Obama in the White House many times. And there's also, it's not even evidence, it's an event that actually occurred, that in 2020 there were alliances where Bernie Sanders, also known as Gutman, and Senator Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, or Fakahontas, actually hosted a pro-Tehran lobby group. And this is who Biden wants to put in his cabinet. Well, they should be in the cabinet, locked up without air. And they should be prosecuted for treason. Now, President Trump tweeted this week that he will veto the National Defense Authorization Act unless Congress repeals Section 230 of the 1996 Communication Decency Act, which critics say unfairly shields social media platforms from liability, so that you can't sue these social media like Facebook and so on, and they can do whatever they want, ban you, get rid of you. Section 230, which is a liability shielding gift from the U.S. to the big tech, the only companies in America that have it, is a serious threat to our national security and election integrity. This is from President Trump. Our country can never be safe and secure if we allow it to stand. Therefore, if the very dangerous and unfair Section 230 is not completely terminated as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, I will be forced to unequivocally veto the bill when sent to the very beautiful Resolute desk and take back America now. And he says, thank you. Now, the Department of Justice sent a letter to the Congress in October that advocated changes to the 25-year-old law that essentially protects these companies from being sued by the content posted on their sites. The DOJ letter states, today's large online platforms hold tremendous power over the information and views available to the American people. It is therefore critical that they be honest and transparent with users about how they use that power. Now, Trump has the power now to, because of the election fraud exposure and the foreign interference provision of his executive order of 2018, to take over the social media. And I just want to read some information about that to you, because you may recall a few days ago, President Trump did a 45-minute speech, which I posted on on our website. Hopefully you listened to it. And so people are saying, what was the purpose of the White House speech about election fraud and vote rigging? It was not anything new that we didn't know, except that now it came from the mouth of President Trump. And we know that he's highly involved in getting rid of this fraud from the American election procedures. The speech, according to some information, is about Trump communicating with Chris Miller and the Department of Defense about foreign interference in U.S. election, while laying out the key national security justifications that are necessary to invoke a national security option against an attempted cyber warfare coup. So in other words, his speech was a go-ahead to certain agencies in the military to invoke this ability for him to take control of the social media. Now, the efforts put in place by Trump and the Department of Defense intelligence team was to trap the Democrats in acts of treason and warfare against America. So they knew this was going to happen in the election, and they allowed it to happen on purpose so these people could be exposed for everyone to see. And he says that they have a sworn oath to defend the United States Constitution against the siege that is underway. And he says, as president, I have no higher duty than to defend the laws and Constitution of the United States. That is why I'm determined to protect our election system, which is now under coordinated assault and siege. He then explains that the vote was criminally rigged with fraud, which is a crime and it's treason, and that's now time to overturn the election. But actually, there's not an overturning the election because Trump won. The election was stolen. So we need to expose the stealing of the election. It doesn't need to be overturned because he won. Now it just has to be revealed. He says the only conceivable reason why you would block common sense measures to verify legal eligibility for voting is because you're trying to encourage, enable, solicit, or carry out fraud. It is important for Americans to understand that these destructive changes to our election laws were not a necessary response to the pandemic. The pandemic simply gave the Democrats an excuse to do what they were doing for many, many years. Now, in 2018, the executive order describes who would be subjected to having all their assets seized by the United States government. And that would include to have materially assisted, sponsored, or provided financial, material, or technological support, or goods or services, or support to any activity described in this subsection. And that would include the media, because they were aiding and abetting the fraud by saying it didn't exist. And they lied about the numbers. Also, to have directly or indirectly engaged in, sponsored, concealed, or otherwise been complicit in foreign interference in the United States election. Well, that would go to Biden and the Democrats. And the treasonous media and complicit big tech giants have all engaged in concealing, advocating, and supporting foreign interference in the U.S. election. So under this existing law, it's a felony crime to try to rig votes. Under military law, during a time of war, it's treason, and we're kind of in an act of war. And under the 2018 executive order, each of the entities engaging in this behavior will have all their assets seized by the U.S. Treasury. This means that Twitter, Facebook, CNN, The Washington Post, Google, MSNBC, etc. are all now able to be completely seized, shut down, or taken over by the Trump administration because of behaviors outlined in the 2018 executive order. That's very encouraging. I hope it happens immediately. In addition, CIA Director Gina Haspel admitted to election interference in a full confession, which has now been acquired. Dominion executives confessing to engineering backdoors in the systems, which have also been acquired.
Didn't something happen to Miss Haskell?
Well, there's a lot of rumors that she was killed in the attack on Frankfurt or she was wounded. But it also, I've heard that she's been taken to Gitmo in exchange
we don't
for
know where she is then.
her. Nobody knows, but she's,
But they have the testimony of
AWOL.
Yeah.
Now, the log files and the software evidence from the CIA servers in Frankfurt prove physical and intellectual proof that the CIA inserted hundreds of thousands of votes into the Dominion tabulations machine. All this evidence exists right now. Trump has all of it. So does the military intelligence. And because of what he said in his speech, it lays the groundwork now to justify the initiation of orders for further arrests, rendition fights, and wartime activities necessary to defend the United States of America against foreign enemies who are waging a cyber warfare against the United States. And you see, it doesn't have to be a shooting war, explosions, it's a cyber war. It's still an act of war. So the election theft was cyber warfare against the United States of America. So the entire election was a deception by China, Iran, and the Democrats to steal the votes. But, and I'm going to get to this a little bit later by something very extraordinary that has happened to me recently, Trump used it and allowed it to happen in order to trap and expose the treason of the ones who are involved. And yes, Biden is wearing an ankle bracelet. Now, of course, the first story was that he sprained his ankle by playing with his dog.
I read
And he
that.
had a boot on. And when the media wanted him to film him going into the doctor, it was refused.
Oh.
Then suddenly, the other day, he said, "Oh, I fractured my ankle in the shower." I don't know what he does in the shower that would fractures it. But he said, so two different stories within a matter of days. And the boot was on the left foot, then it was on the right foot. And where have we seen this? If you remember, the one who cannot be mentioned, McCain.
And then didn't he?
He also had a dog story, and he had a boot on one foot, then he had it on the other foot, and so on.
Then wasn't he dead?
And then died.
Yeah.
We can only hope it happens to Mr. Biden. But I don't even Satan doesn't want him. I think he's already dead, and this is somebody else.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Because I told you, Biden had ice blue eyes. Now they're black. How did that happen? Well, he's full of you-know-what. But that wouldn't change his eye color, really.
Maybe his reading monitors do that.
Well, now, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, General Flynn, promoted a petition this past week calling on President Donald Trump to temporarily suspend the U.S. Constitution, which doesn't exist anymore anyway, declare martial law, and order the military to oversee a national revote for the 2020 presidential election. I said this months ago. The petition, which was published by the Ohio-based nonprofit group We the People Convention, said there was no peaceful way to preserve our union following President-elect Joe Biden's electoral victory, and urged Trump to exercise his extraordinary authority to avert a second civil war. Limited martial law is clearly a better option than civil war, according to the petition, and I agree. It also said that this was an act that former President Abraham Lincoln did before the Civil War in the 1860s. Unfortunately, it didn't prevent the Civil War.
No, but what was interesting though, he did arrest a lot of
He
media
did.
and politicians,
Yes,
and
but-
he put them in military prisons for
Yes.
years without any resolution.
Yes, and they deserved it. Many will object to these actions, as they did in Lincoln's day, but we assure you that we the people understand that no less action will suffice to prevent the loss of our constitutional right to vote and preserve our republic. And Trump lawyer Lynn Wood from Georgia also promoted the petition on Tuesday, tweeting that Trump should declare martial law to avert a civil war spurred on by communist China. Why is China still existing? They should be eradicated from the face of the earth. I don't care. That's not racism. They are evil. And I'm going to tell you information I had just yesterday. I'm going to reveal it to you somehow, but I have to tell you. Now, in regard to changing in government, I just got this in from Lebanon, and so it's not in exactly the right order, but according to my reporter from Lebanon, that they heard that Hassan Nasrallah, who is the Hezbollah leader, has fled to Iran. There's Iran again, taking evil in. And videos are circulating via WhatsApp that are reporting this. And also other prominent Hezbollah figures are fleeing. The Speaker of the House, Nabi Berri, who is their Nancy Pants, Pelosi version, the biggest mafioso gang probably in the whole Arab world, is also fleeing. His wife, Randa, the equivalent of the Philippines' Imelda Marcos, is also fleeing. She's packing in a panic with all her suitcases. Poor Randa, where will she stash all that money and jewelry? So much to pack and not enough time. Randy Berry is probably worse than Marcos. And this person says it seems they know their days are numbered, and everyone is fleeing, including the Qataris, which signed an agreement with they read KSA. I'm not sure I know what that means. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to open their airspace so they can flee. I received a video in a Lebanese dialect, but they said here the situation cannot withstand longer, Our refrigerators are empty, and going to a supermarket for weekly shopping has become a nightmare. Eating meat or chicken is a luxury. Many people are going hungry. More than 50% of the population of Lebanon is in poverty. And so the government of Lebanon fleeing is indicative of President Trump remaining in office, and they know what will happen to them when he is reinaugurated in January. And I think we are going to see a lot of governments fleeing, perhaps in Turkey. That might be next. And all the ones who congratulated Biden, like Canada, like China. So, on to a different news, but it's related, and I promise at the end of my section I will tell you what's going on. There were 2 classified reports from the Pentagon task force that were used to detect and analyze and catalog UFOs, which now have been leaked, purposely given, which includes the photos of the unidentified object. Now, interestingly, the report discussed an unidentified silver cube-shaped object, the Borg. The Borg are really here. And a list of explanations discussed, including the fact that it was alien or non-human technology. This is now being released to mainstream media. In the 2020 photo, which has been leaked but not available yet, it describes a triangle with white lights on each corner. Now, people believe that a faction within the government clearly wants this information to be released to the public. I know that's a fact. The New York Times reported that scientists believe objects of undetermined origin have crashed to Earth and been retrieved. Well, you've known this for decades. And Eric Davis, an astrophysicist who worked as a subcontractor and consultant for the Pentagon UFO, says that he gave briefings on the recovery of unexplained objects to staff members of the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee on October 21 and 23 of 2019, so just last year. So there's a reason for these UFOs being revealed now, and I will explain in a moment. But people have been asking me about those monoliths.
Oh, before you get there, I was wanted to tell you about that UFO. Now, the other thing that was interesting, the first time I've seen it said publicly, is that they're saying now there are alien bases under the ocean.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
Yeah, and that's the first time that they've said that. And also I want to remind people about your story, Montauk, the alien connection, because there's some really interesting information here about aliens. And also in Blue Blood, we have actually drawings of some aliens along with a lot of Stuart's personal experiences. So if you like alien stuff and you want to know the truth, because a lot of people actually are writing in saying the things that you wrote about, especially in Blue Blood,
they all happened.
They're now coming true.
Yes.
So it's very interesting, and if you want to be up on that, you need to read these books.
And every story that I'm telling you today is connected, and I'm going to pull it together at the end of my section in unbelievable information that I'm going to give you. Now, these mysterious metal monoliths were one was placed in the Utah desert and apparently has disappeared, according to government officials and witnesses. A number of witnesses hiked to the spot where the monolith was found and confirmed it was gone. The location is now marked only by a triangular piece of metal covering a hole in the ground. And the Utah's Bureau of Land Management, by the way, Bureau of Land Management, BLM, said it did not remove the monolith, and that it had been spotted by field biologists on November 18th. It was 3.4 meters tall, with sides that appeared to be made of stainless steel. And people soon found it on satellite images going back to 2016, so it wasn't just recently placed there. And another mysterious monolith has surfaced in Romania, after the one in Utah vanished. Now, and a third monolith was found in a remote part of California. Bum, 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 bum. See? And so that one in Romania was 13 feet tall and faced Mount Cielo, which is locally known as the Holy Mountain. So, these are markers for underground area entrances which have been purposefully revealed now for a reason. And that reason is, you remember the scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey, where all the little apes found this big monolith, and after they were near it, they became intelligent. Or human, which was, oxymoron. Anyway, there's a symbolism in that. There's a change coming in humanity. And speaking of that, Jupiter and Saturn will appear to align we're in December, creating a double planet in the night sky. And that's the first time since the Middle Ages that the planets have aligned this close. And you can see this on the winter solstice of December 21 as a brilliantly bright double planet visible in the western sky. If you live in the northern hemisphere, you can observe this planetary conjunction sitting in the southwestern sky shortly after sunset. The best time to see on December 21 will be around an hour after sunset, right near the constellation of Capricorn. So this will be a symbol of major changes for humanity, hence the monoliths, hence what's going on with our government. And apparently December 21 not only is a solstice, but it's going to be a day of reckoning and finalization of what's going on right now. So it's not that far away. It's before Christmas. We may have a very good Christmas present from this. Except if you live in California, because a swarm of over 200 earthquakes have rattled the area between California and Nevada, the largest being 5.1. And not only that, but volcanic activity is elevated with 43 volcanoes currently erupting, and some are preparing to explode. Indonesia is in the eye of all of this, with 2 major volcanic eruptions happening, and the activity has been enhanced since the last major solar eruption of November 29th, which is just a week ago. So watch out in Western United States, New Zealand, South Pacific, Japan, Iceland, and Italy. And now for what I have to tell you. And I really debated with myself. Sometimes I call you myself, so I debated with you about how to say it, if I should say it. I don't want to come off like a weirdo, but people think anyway. Yeah.
Too late for that.
I attract all the weirdos. Lord knows, in the last few weeks, they just came out everywhere.
I wonder why.
Holy cannolis. Anyway, I received a phone call yesterday. And on the ID was, I can't say it because we get deleted. Although, who knows anyway. The 17th letter of the alphabet. This is the same person group, if you remember, in July 2018, that broke into my radio show with Max Steele, who's passed on since then, and claimed that they were this military intelligence, and they took over the radio show and interrogated me. Anyway, you know the story. They said they've been following me for 20 years and so on. Because
you were contacted by phone before this.
Well,
right?
not like this.
No, but
Because the same person said to me now that they want to work with me and support my work and promote me. And they said they now can reveal more information openly because of what's happening now in the United States and the world. And by the way, even when this group calls me, I can't call them back because there's a computer response. I cannot call. So I have to wait for them to contact me. I was invited, along with you, to visit them in a location which I will not mention. But the name of the location makes a lot of sense to me when you think about the name. And 3 of them are located there, and we have been asked to come there. Here's some of the information I was told. I'll just give you line by line that this letter is a supercomputer. It's actually a huge alien technology supercomputer with looking glass technology and so on, and that's how they know what's going on and what to do. He told me that China is complete, and the Chinese people are completely controlled by negative aliens, and they have to be, I don't want to say the word, but they can't be like that anymore. I was told specifically that Trump will be in office for a second term. I asked about that, and they said 100%. They wanted to remove the evil in 2016, but people were not ready. I don't think they are now, but for a time. I was told that military tribunals will be arranged for Biden and all of the Democratic evil people. And that is why General Flynn was pardoned and working with Sidney Powell in an undisclosed military location at this very moment to arrange the tribunals for these people. It will not be public or civil. It will be a military tribunal because it involves treason against the United States and crimes against humanity, just like the trials at Nuremberg. And Nuremberg people were executed. I was told to watch Melania's left eye, and that was a clue as to what she really was.
Yes.
I won't go into detail about that, but she's not.
Maybe on your blog you might.
Yes.
To the members.
And that is why she was brought here, so that Baron could come through her energy field. I was also told that all the news that we see is all theatrics and not to pay any attention to it because it has absolutely no basis in reality. And there's more, and I was told I do have permission to say, but I need to say it in a way that will be cohesive and logical, and I need to let a lot of things they told me sink in so I can reveal it, like you said, maybe on my blog.
Yeah, I think so. So you don't have your membership, expansions.com, you want to do that. I also want to show you a few stocking stuffers before I get into my news. We have healing salve and deep penetrating made by Solomon Seal Herb by a very small wild crafter family in Oregon, which we absolutely love. You can find these on our
They're
post.
small and wild, or their
Yes.
company is?
All of that.
Okay.
We have Oleo Del Rey, because remember, we support local people or people we know and who support us. So Oleo Del Rey is an amazing product. I don't even know how to describe it. Do you?
It's an amazing product.
Yeah.
It's originally from Italy.
Yes.
And now made in the United States
Yes.
because the EU changed the formula to
Right.
crap.
So, but this is good. It helps open up your nostrils. Like if people have any breathing problems of
When I
any
wasn't
kind.
well, I inhaled that.
Yes.
And it really helped
If you
everything.
have headaches, you can put it down in here, up on your temple.
Mm-hmm.
But this, we always have this in our home, Oleo Del Rey. This people are loving this magnesium spray, which is made by the same people who make the deep
You
healing
have pains
salves.
in your body anywhere, you
Yes.
spray it on there and it helps.
And
the
there's a
pain
wonderful
away.
gentleman in Florida that makes our our olive gold, which is oxygenated olive oil, and some of it has special herbs that you can use for dental rinse, which I happen to use that. You can use this for deodorant
Right.
on your face,
Insect bites, rashes,
anything. But we have really fabulous products. So if you haven't had a chance to review those, and also I've had a few people saying, "Oh, we haven't gotten our coloring books, but I intend to." Remember, this is a local family that was stuck with
well,
these because
they're
of
not
the
from here.
not originally, but it's a young pastoral family that originally were going to sell this in the last summer to their churches. They were supposed to have 100,000 people, and of course that got canceled because
of the Chinese.
everything. So we have these. So please, if you need gifts for your family, stocking stuffers, your business, sometimes give them out to charities, fundraisers. And if you want more than 20 sets, I will put you in direct contact so you know the money goes directly to the family. And then also children's gifts. These are fabulous for this season. We have, or if your English is a second language, we have people buying them
Or
for that.
third language.
Yes, archetypes.
That looks
Auras.
like me.
Yeah. And now no longer since you lost all
I
that
lost
weight.
all that weight, yes.
Chakras and protection. So we have lots of fabulous books and products So for the holiday season, support expansions.com. We support you, support your community, support all these small business people. It's how that they stay in business. So with that said, I wanted to also touch a little bit on the election things that are going on. So I wanted to let people know, in case you don't by now, that of course there was a big testimony about things that happened here in Michigan.
Right.
Melissa Caroni testified.
She was excellent.
Yes, she was a contractor for the Dominion Voting Systems who worked at Detroit's TCF Center on election day. And she told Michigan lawmakers that she saw approximately 30,000 ballots being scanned multiple times by counting machines.
I just want to say, in Michigan, there were 400,000 illegal ballots.
Yes, she's a freelance IT professional. And she said in an affidavit that she witnessed, quote, nothing but fraudulent actions take place. I observed numerous employees, city workers, running batches of ballots through the tabulators countless times without discarding them first.
Right. And most of them didn't even have addresses, signatures, and they only had Biden on the top and nothing else underneath.
She said the voting tabulating machines would jam up to 3 times per hour. And when they jam, the election officials are supposed to reset them. So instead of discarding them, she said they kept rescanning and rescanning and rescanning. She says counting ballots 9 to 10 times.
That's why there were places in Michigan that had 800% voter capacity. How is that even possible? Oh, but there's no fraud. 800 times the people voted.
She said where she was, there were 20 tabulating machines at her ballot center that were supposed to be counted in batches of 50. But they wound up being counted in batches of 500. So she said she called
That's 10 times.
Yeah, she called her manager to one of the machines and showed him what was going on. And he said to her, I don't want to hear that we have a problem. We are here to assist with IT. We are not here to run their election. And then she said, at this point, I was really frustrated and upset. I could tell what was going on. They were cheating. It was very, very apparent. So then Giuliani said to her, well, how come more individuals haven't come forward? And she blatantly said, my life has been destroyed. I've lost family. I've lost my friends. I've been threatened. My kids have been threatened. I've had to move. I've had to change my phone number. I've had to get rid of social media. Nobody wants to come forward. I can't get an actual job because the Democrats like to ruin your lives. That's why.
Exactly.
So, and then a Republican poll challenger who also testified confirmed what she had to say and said that many poll workers did not appear to understand what to do when the ballot tabulators were jammed.
Because they had 1 hour of training.
That's what she said. She said
the
that
day before.
She said that they were not properly trained. And now this was also interesting. Republican Representative Mo Brooks said that when the electoral vote comes before Congress on January 6th, which I've told you before, we do not have a president-elect until January 6th.
That's right.
That he plans to challenge the Electoral College votes. So he says in a last-ditch, this is the article, in a last-ditch effort to overturn the results, but I'm like you, they can't overturn
it's not
it because...
He won. There's nothing to overturn. You just have to show the illegal fraud that happened.
Yes, so, but anyway, so he plans to challenge what he claims is going to happen. And he said if Congress certifies Biden's whatever.
They're all... Now, the reason that they're allowing these governors and these people to certify a fraudulent election, because now they've committed treason and they can be arrested.
Yes, that's right. That's correct. And then I also wanted to move along then to, of course, our wonderful COVID stuff that's going on.
Oh, before you go there, the scamdemic, I just had information that I read recently that every year on Earth, in 100 countries, 500 million people die of malaria. But that's not a pandemic. How come?
Well, it's all weird, as we all know. So here in LA, Mayor Garcetti told 4 million citizens to remain indoors and says it's time to cancel everything.
Right.
He is banning all travel, listen to this, including walking and bicycling.
People in California, do not pay attention to these illegal acts against your God-given constitutional rights. Rebel, resist, do not do this.
Now listen to this, but now religious services are exempt and protests.
So just tell when you go outside, you're just protesting.
Yeah, that's
You're a
right.
member of Antifa and you're protesting.
Now, I want to say
You won't even have to wear a mask.
congratulations to these people of Staten Island, because in Staten Island, New York,
Yes, finally, New York is doing something.
yeah, there is a bar owner who has been, ignoring the laws that
Good.
no indoor dining. So apparently they came and they dragged him away in handcuffs, but 2,000 people showed up to protest his arrest. So good for them.
So they arrested him for opening up his business to support his family.
That's right.
That's United States?
Yeah.
Not the one I know.
And then in Ohio, apparently articles of impeachment have been filed against Governor Mike DeWine.
Good.
Now, DeWine is Republican.
Yeah, but he's a rhino.
Apparently, a group of Republican representatives filed these impeachment articles, and they don't say exactly what they are in this particular article, but they said that he's violated Ohio's Constitution's separation of powers doctrine, acted beyond his authority in issuing health orders, including orders that close businesses
Right.
and mandated masks
Just
in
like
public.
Cuomo, just like Whitmer, just like Newscomb.
Yes, now
all of them.
in Washington State,
Wolf.
of course, Democratic Governor Jay Inslee said high transmission risk at restaurants until we invent a way to eat with a mask on.
Oh, don't do that, people. Ever, ever.
Well, it's ridiculous. We saw a restaurant here in Michigan that said that you had to put it up until your food was served.
Right, and then put it back in between bites.
Yeah, so a lot of.
I thought, who's going to go to that restaurant?
Okay, now I am a little bit proud of this next article I'm going to tell you about.
Why, you in it?
Well, kind of. I used to live in Lewis County. So I've been to Mossy Rock, Washington many times. And in Mossy Rock, they passed an ordinance allowing businesses to stay open in defiance of Governor Inslee's COVID mandate.
Good. Defy them.
Mayor Randall Sasser says there's little data to support keeping businesses closed.
There's no data to
That's
support
right.
it.
And not all areas should be held to the same standard. He's been mayor for 3 years. He served on the city council for a few years prior to that. And he said that's what's happening is it's not about anything but control. He said first he thought it was a financial thing, but now I believe it's more of a control than anything else.
It's a Chinese way to control the United States.
mayor
to
says-
destroy the economy and take over.
Mossy Rock, Washington mayor, I believe that they want to be able to control us and tell us what we need to do and get us accustomed to always following what they say.
That's right.
Because I believe that there is something bigger that they have planned to keep us under their thumb.
That's the truth.
So congratulations to this mayor.
Good. Everyone should listen to him.
Yeah, and he said this was interesting too. He said one of the comments I made at our council meeting was that in Lewis County this year, we've had a total, as of the day of this report, of 14 deaths due to COVID, unfortunately. However, we've also had a total of 10 suicides, and last year we only had 3 suicides in Lewis County. So when we look at the shutdown and everything that's happening, there's no data that says that Mossy Rock has any cases or deaths. So why should we suffer as a city and citizens following the governor's mandate? So again, congratulations
Good.
on standing up for your constitutional rights in
Take
Mossy
note,
Rock.
California
And
and
the
New
rest
York.
and the rest of Washington State and everybody else who's following unconstitutional orders. Now this was kind of interesting for a couple of reasons. This is Rand Paul, Kentucky Republican, who took aim at the Democratic governor of his state, Andy Beshear, because Governor Beshear announced last week he was closing all public and private schools and reinstating a ban on indoor dining. It's starting to sound familiar, right?
Yeah.
He said, Mr. Paul said, let's hope the courts will intervene. And he's calling his governor DWP, which means drunk with power.
That's why I want the martial law to take hold and the military say all this is out.
Yeah, Mr. Paul says he's taken this power without any consent from the legislature. They're completely arbitrary. They're not based on any kind of science. There is very little objective
There's no
science
science.
to prove that any of this works. In fact, the data study on masks shows that objectively, guess what? The cloth masks don't work. Listen to this one.
Of course they don't.
Listen to what he has to say. He says, they're theater. If you look at the cloth mask, 97% of virus-sized particles go
Yeah.
through cloth masks.
It's like trying to stop mosquitoes through a chain link fence.
That's exactly correct. The only thing is I don't particularly care about is, of course, he wants to, have the vaccine, but he wants it to be voluntary.
Just take hydroxychloroquine, people, and you will be fine in NAC, and nothing will happen to you.
So,
The death rate is 0.001.
yeah. So anyway, I don't particularly agree with, but that's his thing. And as long as it's voluntary, hey, you want to put poison in your body, that's up to you. Now in Dallas, Oregon, another area of where not too far from where I used to live, a Dallas, Oregon doctor and his staff recently completely dismissed COVID-19, saying it's no different than the common cold.
Right.
And this doctor said his staff and they have not worn masks for months during the pandemic.
Good for them.
The doctor's name is Stephen LaTulippe, and he made the comments during a rally called Stop the Steal, and of course referring to the votes, so in support of President Trump. He said, I want to expose what I call corona mania. I thought that was a good term,
Yes.
corona mania.
Right.
I want you to know that I never shut down during the entire COVID season. I hate to tell you this, I might scare you, but I and my staff, none of us once wore a mask in my clinic. And how many problems did we have in our clinic from that? 0. Okay?
Exactly.
Now this story you're going to love. It's one of your favorite
Am
people.
I in it?
Not close. Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López
Obrador.
Obrador. Okay?
I like him.
He says the pandemic lockdowns are the tactic of dictators.
Yes.
The fundamental thing is to guarantee liberty when asked why he almost never wears a mask.
Because you don't need to.
He said that politicians who impose lockdowns or curfews to limit COVID-19 are acting like dictators.
Yes.
So he said it was a question of liberty, and he said that right now that the pandemic measures that limit people's movements are fashionable among authorities who want to show that they're heavy-handed dictators.
I never thought I'd ever say this in my life, but we should move to Mexico.
I was thinking that as I was reading this. He says the Mexican government has offered changing and contradictory advice on the utility of wearing face masks and has described mass testing as wasteful and pointless, which I agree with.
Yes.
Now, Moderna will begin testing its coronavirus on children as young as 12,
That's
between
terrible.
12 and 17. I want to know where they get these volunteers
Right. What parents say, oh yeah, take my kid.
from. A total of 3,000 participants will be enrolled, but they don't expect these trials to be completed until June of 2022. So what does that tell you about what they have
Oh,
planned?
there's no way. No way.
So it says that Pfizer began testing its coronavirus vaccine in children as young as 12 in October, and AstraZeneca began testing kids, but not in the U.S. So that's what I'm saying. How do they get permission? And remember, I talked about this last week about testing on people who don't understand what's going on
Right.
is a crime against humanity.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Now, the Pfizer CEO admits that he's not certain that their COVID-19 shot will prevent vaccinated people from spreading the virus. Now, you remember the flu shot,
Yeah.
which, you know,
that kills people.
yes, and the thing is the live virus. So if you don't want to take the flu shot, but somebody you know takes the flu shot, and then they're in your area, you know, close, I say less than 6 feet, then you can actually catch the flu from the flu shot that they had.
Yes,
If they
it's
cough,
a live
sneeze, or
virus.
whatever. That's right, and that's happened to many people.
Yes.
So this is why he's saying that they're not saying that once you're vaccinated that you could still spread it because you've got this vaccine
Listen,
thing.
we
in you.
know people who've taken those vaccinations and either died or they got
Yes.
very ill, permanently ill.
Now, CEO Albert Bourla said the firm is not certain about whether Pfizer's shot prevents transmission. He said the shot is 95% effective at preventing COVID-19 in trials, but they did not test whether the participants actually spread the virus. So it's possible that the highly contagious virus could continue to spread after you have a vaccine.
Then what's the point?
Exactly. So AstraZeneca says its primary testing goal was whether people who get vaccinated were less likely to get sick. So now this is, again, I'm wondering this. They said that they have a pool of 40,000 volunteers. Now, I know a lot of people, and I've not heard one person say, I'm a volunteer for this thing.
You know, maybe they're in nursing homes, maybe they're in mental health institutions, maybe they're in prison.
But they claim that of these 40,000 volunteers, half got placebos and half got the vaccine, and 162 who got the placebo developed the coronavirus symptoms, and 8 of the vaccinated group did. So they're claiming that makes it effective. But it says here, it still doesn't tell people, the researchers, whether the people contracted the virus, didn't develop symptoms, or whether anyone passed on the infection to somebody else. Now, in the UK, unfortunately, it's been approved already.
Right, and this
Too bad.
week they have to start taking it, and if you don't get your little card, then you can't go to restaurants or bars or anything like that.
Now, you might remember, I also talked to you last week about Dr. Yaden, who was vice president for Pfizer, or head of research, I think, for Pfizer. Okay. So he has more information out with Dr. Wodarg. So Dr. Michael Yaden, who's the lung specialist, former head of public health department, Dr. Wolfgang Wodarg, filed an application December 1 with the European Medicine Agency responsible for the EU-wide drug approval for the immediate suspension of all SRS, COVID, whatever vaccine studies, in particular the BioNTech Pfizer study. They say that the vaccine contains a spike protein called Synctin-1, which is vital for the formation of human placenta in women. So they say, we are training the female body to attack Synctin-1, which could lead to infertility in women of an unspecified duration.
Spontaneous abortions.
And after a little research, it turns out that Synctin-1 is also present in sperm, so it could make men sterile
And
as
that's
well
what Bill
as
Gates
women.
and Bill Gates' evil father wanted,
Yes.
to reduce the human population.
Yes.
And that's what this is really all about.
So Dr. Wodarg and Dr. Yaden demand that the studies for the protection of the life and health of the volunteers should not be continued until their study design is better than what they're doing now.
Listen, people, as soon as this election fraud is exposed and President Trump is inaugurated, this is going to come to an end in 5 minutes.
It says that by means of animal experiments that there are risks known from previous studies. And it says, for example, coronavirus vaccines in cats. It says initially the cats tolerated the vaccine. Then they caught what they were calling the wild virus. And then it said they died.
So they killed the poor little cats.
Yes. And it says people can do that too, because people can develop allergic, potentially fatal reactions to the vaccination. But because right now the studies are so short, they can't tell you what the long-term effects are. And apparently they're comparing this to when they had the swine flu vaccination, that caused narcolepsy in people.
And let me tell you something. You in UK, if you think you're going to take that vaccine and you can go to the bars, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, when you get cancer or have a stroke or heart attack, now you'll know why.
Yeah, and it says also that these doctors, and the link I have, they are asking for as many EU citizens to co-sign their petition. So who knows if that's going to do any good, but it's there.
Rebel, rebel, rebel.
Now the designer of the COVID vaccine admits that it will only sterilize 70% of the population.
Only 70%.
Professor Sir John Bell, professor of medicine at Oxford University and part of the GAVI team, he's a member of the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies. He sits on the government's vaccine task force. He says, quote, "These vaccines are unlikely to completely sterilize the population. They're very likely to have an effect which works in, say, 60 or 70%.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Now, this next article is kind of interesting, and this shows how insidious things are. And I'm just going to kind of, I'm going to start in, and then I'll tell you a few things I found out when I researched it further. It said an all-powerful global government has already formed, surprise, surprise. They've already made their plans public. They plan to use COVID-19 lockdowns and public health orders to strip people of their individual rights. Now, they're saying that they want to promote through the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and big tech, a communist system which will be sold as Build Back Better. Now, interestingly enough, when I put into the search
That's what all the leaders like Trudeau and all of them are using those terms.
Yes. And when I put in Build Back Better, it said that Biden actually, because Trump always said America first. Well, Biden's plan is called Build Back Better.
Well,
economic plan. I thought that was
A
interesting.
vote for Biden is a vote for the CCP.
And then it said that they're launching something called #PledgeToPause initiative. And UN Communications Director Melissa Fleming called the program the first global behavior change campaign on misinformation. So I looked up the Pause to Pledge, which actually has its own website. And this is where the UN pledges or asks people to pledge to pause before they post anything. Because they said that we have a communications emergency caused by false information being disseminated on social media.
No, it's called don't tell the truth, because
Yes.
we don't want you to
This
know
is
it.
what the UN is saying.
Anything coming out of the UN, they should be disbanded.
No, but it's important to know what's being put out of the UN. So the UN Secretary General is encouraging people everywhere to take a breath before sharing content online. And they're actually calling this, if you help them do this, you become a civil society collaborator.
No, you become a communist insurgent.
And so if you're a civil society collaborator, then that helps you to fight misinformation.
Oh my goodness.
So this is why these are these people who are like on Facebook and Instagram.
These are like the fact checkers.
Yes, that's what these people are as a result of what the UN is doing. And then they're saying that they have already recruited information volunteers. They're calling them 110,000 information volunteers.
In other words, snitches.
Yeah, I was going to use the word snitch or troll. So these are employed to be digital first responders, snitches.
They should all be executed.
These thought control police will monitor the internet to eliminate information that has been deemed dangerous misinformation, forcing intellectual subservience from all. So following on the heels of that, former UN head Ban Ki-moon says we need leaders who are global citizens and they want to build an inclusive world. So this December, Global Citizen Prize will honor leaders across government, business, entertainment, the arts, philanthropy, and more, as well as global citizens and young people, because they're easier to brainwash.
Right, and they already are.
Dedicated to achieving the UN's global goals. Now this one really got me.
Global dictatorship.
Of ending extreme poverty. That's really got me, especially with my recent research. So it says with a series of unprecedented global challenges such as COVID-19, racial unrest, and increased poverty.
Which was all caused by George Soros.
This year has proven difficult for many of us, especially for those living in extreme poverty. They're trying to get you emotionally pulled in, right?
Right.
It said they're going to celebrate a political figure who advocates for and has implemented policy changes that have improved the lives of those living in poverty. Now, I want you to know that I have been doing a lot of research on poverty, as you know.
Yes, I know, and you were very irritating.
Yes. So did you know in the U.S. alone, in 2019, almost $450 billion have been made to charitable donations.
And not one penny went to the poor people.
And $50 billion. So why and how can we possibly have poverty?
Every poor person in the United States should be rich then.
I should be rich with this kind of a figure. That's what I'm saying. This is impossible. We should not have extreme poverty anywhere in the world. Or any poverty. According to this. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up because I think it's again totally ridiculous. Now, this kind of follows on the heels of what you were saying about the Department of Justice, and I think I reported on this, but it was in the news again, so I'm just going to briefly remind you that the Department of Justice has quietly amended its execution protocols. It no longer requires federal death sentences to be carried out by lethal injection, and now they can use firing squads and poisonous gas.
I have a list for them.
Attorney General William Barr restarted federal executions this year after a 17-year hiatus.
We're not so sure about him, are we?
We're not sure, but we're still saying that he put this in place. It says now the Department of Justice has executed more Americans in 2020 than in the previous 5 decades.
Yes, but who were the ones? Who were they? They were murderers, rapists, pedophiles. That's who they were.
More than 40 states are investigating Facebook for antitrust violations, and they plan to sue Zuckerberg's company very soon.
You know, his name really should start with an F instead of a Z.
Yeah. Anyway, the group of states was led by New York. And it will be the second major lawsuit against a big tech company this year because the Department of Justice sued Alphabet Inc., Google company, in October. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. Now this story, I'm following up on kind of because I reported to you whenever this originally happened that there was a older lady in Holland that they were going to euthanize.
Yes, I remember that story.
And she
changed her mind.
She'd given consent, but then she had like dementia and Alzheimer. So when they went to euthanize her, they couldn't do it. She was fought.
Yes, then they should stop.
But they didn't. They held her down and they euthanized her.
Murder.
So the doctor then was put on trial for murder.
Good.
And eventually, though she was exonerated.
Well, that's not good.
So now in Holland, if you have signed this thing to consent to be euthanized, now they can give you sleeping pills secretly to sedate you so you won't fight back when they go to lethally euthanize you.
You need to go back to your wooden shoes and your windmills. when people were more normal.
Yeah.
Because now, Holland, you're a nut job.
And I thought this was kind of interesting story. This is my last one. You're going to go, oh, good.
Yeah, thank God.
Germany is going to wipe out Nazi traces from their phonetic alphabet. So, like when you say, A for apple, B for boy. Okay. So they took out, apparently, D for David, N for Nathan, Z for Zacharias,
What?
J
I
for
don't
Jacob,
understand.
I'm going to tell you, S for Samuel,
That's the whole alphabet.
because they said those were Jewish names. And they replaced them for Dora, North Pole, Zeppelin.
I don't understand. I don't get what you're saying. I don't know what they did.
Okay, so in other words, if you're in Germany, in their alphabet, they used to, if you wanted, like if you're on the phone, you go, okay, D for David.
Oh.
You couldn't
you
say
do that all the time.
You
It's so
couldn't
annoying.
you couldn't say D for David because David was a Jewish name.
That's ridiculous.
So they changed it with Dora because Dora they said was a Germanic name.
What
And
if
you
there's a
can't-
Jewish woman named Dora?
You can't say N for Nathan. You have to say N for North Pole. But now they're saying North Pole is bad because
Santa lives there.
and all of the Nazi stuff that maybe went on at the North Pole.
Oh yes, because they believed in Hyperborea and
Right.
the giant
That-
races. Mhm.
So now there's a whole commission put in place. I wish I could be on some of these commissions because they must make a lot of money.
No, I think
and it's
all
not
those
too
commissions
difficult.
should be in front of the firing squad.
So anyway, so they have a whole new commission. So Elvis, they're going to study this until 2022, a whole year.
Again, what's with 2022? Everything's coming up at that
Because I
time.
guess 2021 it must not going to be too fun of a
Well,
year.
the rest, any of it's going to be.
So they're going to change now all these things, and they're not going to put the Jewish names back in, which to me they're more like
That is so
they're
stupid.
biblical names, really. So anyway, it's just I thought that was really.
So you can say like
interesting.
J for Jesus because he was
Well,
Jewish.
It used to be J was for Jacob, but they changed it to Julius, and S was for Samuel, but they changed it to Siegfried.
Well, what if there was a Siegfried, Schwartz,
Yeah.
and he was Jewish?
Well, I guess you couldn't be if you were in Germany. You would have left or been executed.
Well, that's a
So
whole
they're going to take a
Germany.
year to do this.
You know-
I could do this for you in like 5-10 minutes.
Germany,
no problem.
Germany, Holland, California. What the heck is wrong with you people?
No problem. Give me 5 minutes. I don't need a year or a commission.
No, I'd
I
like
can do
5
it
minutes
myself.
with 'em.
Probably between the two of us, we can get it done in 2.5
Seriously.
minutes. So
Like I said last week, I have a mask for your face right here.
get your books, get your stocking stuffer products. We got tons of books. I told you about his autobiography. We got really
Which
interesting.
now is going to
things
be
in
part
here,
2 because it's so much more interesting.
I guess. Then you got to take care of your health, people. So get your books. We have all kinds of book bundles. Your membership. We tell you all kinds of things
You have
on the
a book
membership.
bundle?
We have a book bundle. So say no to mind control. This is a fabulous one. You want to say no to mind control because most of you are mind controlled and you don't even know it.
Say no to Democratic governors and mayors
Yep, maybe they should have these book bundles.
over their head
Yeah, something.
with a rock in it.
Yeah, so we have so much information that goes on our site every single day. Be sure you get your memberships, expansions.com. We have so much to tell you. We have a wonderful global community. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Yeah.
And in this holiday season, which is really crazy, my blog now is called The Season of Giving.
Yeah, I didn't get
Yeah.
anything from you.
You're lucky.
Well, maybe I got some kind of disease or something. I don't know.
No, you're the one that was diseased, but you didn't share it with me.
Well, I tried.
I know, but I'm resistant.
Anyway,
So that's,
I don't even have anything to. Oh, yes. December 17th
Oh yeah, almost
is
forgot.
the webinar with Ecuador, Spanish, and the English.
English,
that's,
Spanish.
That's on the website.
Well, it's almost on the website. We're getting it loaded.
And we're about to confirm January 8th, the webinar with Turkey.
Oh, and don't forget your AO scan. Did you bring your
Turkish.
AO
No,
scan?
I was because I had these last minute things come up and
Because you love that AO
I
scan.
love my AO scan. I use it every single day for myself and many other people all over the world.
So we have
And
the
they're all improving, and I just love it.
yeah. So you can check that out on our website. What?
And on the AOs, you discovered yesterday they added a section for
Oh, yeah.
COVID-19.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, but we can't say that.
I can't say that.
No. So anyway, like I said, there's always lots of things going on. Expansions.com. Get your membership. Stay
Mm-hmm.
in touch. We do have a free newsletter. You can sign up, and we tell you everything that's going on the member side.
Everything that even I didn't know about and finally found out.
Yeah. So we have lots of stuff going on. So you guys take care. Remember, safe minds gives you a healthy body.
And remember, the best is about to come. Don't be afraid. Don't listen to the news. I don't care what the news tells you. It's a lie. Even the weather is a lie. They tell you what the winter's gonna be like, but they can't predict today. Really.
Well.
Don't listen to any of it. It's crapola.
You have to take care of yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you. Your hope is within you. You are the hope.
Yes, and I will be reporting to you whenever I do get information from my
Source.
who now you know what they are. I never know when they're going to call.
It's a computer now.
And I don't know what's going to say, but if I have permission, I will tell you like I did today.
All right, and more.
Bye.
Bye.